Reading, reading from the Wheel of Sharp Weapons Sutra. When the things we require for daily consumption and use fall apart or are wasted or spoiled, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have been careless with others' possessions. Hereafter, let's give them whatever they need. When our minds are unclear and our hearts are unhappy, we are bored doing virtue, but excited by vice. This is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have led others to acts of non-virtue. Hereafter, let's never provide the conditions that rouse them to follow their negative traits. When our minds are disturbed and we feel great frustration that things never happen the way that we wish, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have caused interfering disturbance when others were focused on virtuous acts. Hereafter, let's stop causing such interruption. When nothing we do ever pleases our gurus, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, with our gurus, we have feigned pious manners, but out of their presence have reverted to sin. Hereafter, let's try to be less hypocritical and take all the teachings sincerely to heart. When others find fault with whatever we are doing, and people seem eager to blame only us, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have been shameless, not caring about others. We have thought that our deeds did not matter at all. Hereafter, let's stop our offensive behavior. When our servants and friends are annoyed by our habits, after a while cannot stay in our homes, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have imposed our bad habits on others. Hereafter, let's change and show only kind ways. When all who are close turn against us as enemies, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have held grudges inside us with anger, with thoughts of sly methods to cause others pain. Hereafter, let's try to have less affection, nor pretend to be kind while we harbor base aims. When we suffer from sickness and such interference, especially when gout has swollen our legs, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, without shame and with no self-control, we have stolen or misused what others have given. Hereafter, let's never take anything offered to the three jewels of refuge as if it were ours. When strokes and diseases strike without warning, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have broken our vowed words of honor. Hereafter, let's shun such non-virtuous deeds. When our mind becomes clouded whenever we study, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have thought that the study of Dharma lacked prime importance and could be ignored. Hereafter, let's build up the habits of wisdom to hear and to think about what Buddha taught. When sleep overwhelms us while practicing virtue, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have gathered the causes for obstacles, hindering our practice of virtuous acts. We have lacked all respect for the scriptural teachings. We have sat on our books and left texts on the ground. We have also looked down upon those with deep insight. Hereafter, for the sake of our practice of Dharma, let's gladly endure all the hardships we meet. When our mind wanders greatly and runs toward delusion, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have neglected to meditate fully on defects pervading this transient world. Hereafter, let's work to renounce this existence and see the impermanent nature of things. When all our affairs, both religious and worldly, run into trouble and fall into ruin, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have felt cause and effect could be slighted. Hereafter, let's practice with patience and strength. When rites we perform never seem to be fruitful, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have relied on the gods of this world or on unskillful actions to bring us relief. Hereafter, let's turn in another direction and leave our non virtuous actions behind. When none of the wishes we make reach fulfillment, although we have made prayers to the three precious gems, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have had an imperfect commitment to Buddha, whose teachings deserve complete trust. Hereafter, let's place our exclusive reliance on Buddha, his teachings, and those in his fold. When prejudice, polio, or strokes have crippled us, and external forces or harm rise against us, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have collected vast stores of non virtue by breaking our vows and offending protectors in our practice from guru devotion to Tantra. Hereafter, let's banish all prejudiced views. When we lack all control over where we must travel and always must wander like waves with no home, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have disturbed holy gurus and others and forced them to move from their homes or their seats. Hereafter, let's never cause others disturbance by evicting them cruelly from where they reside. When the crops in our fields are continually plagued by drought, floods, and hailstones, insects, and frost, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have failed to honor our pledges. Hereafter, let's keep all our moral vows pure. When we are poor, yet are filled with much greed and desire, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have been misers, reluctant to share. The offerings we have made to the three jewels were meager. Hereafter, let's give with a generous heart. When our bodies are ugly and others torment us by mocking our flaws, never showing respect, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have made images lacking in beauty. By venting our anger, we have made ugly scenes. Hereafter, let's print books and make pleasing statues, and not be short tempered, but be of good cheer. When attachment and anger disturb and upset us, no matter how much we may try to suppress them, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, We have held on to the improper outlook, stubbornly cherishing only ourselves. Hereafter, let's uproot self interest completely. When success in our practices always eludes us, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, deep within, we have clung to our ego, fully immersed in self cherishing ways. Hereafter, let's dedicate all of the virtuous actions we do so that others may thrive. When our mind is untamed, though we act with great virtue, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have engaged in those worldly ambitions that aim at success for ourselves in this life. Hereafter, let's work with pure one pointed effort to nourish the wish to gain freedoms far sure. When after we do any virtuous action, we feel deep regret or doubt its effect, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now we have been fickle and stirred by base motives, have courted only those who had power or wealth. Hereafter, let's act with complete self awareness, exerting great care in the way we make friends. When those with ambitions repay trusting friendship by luring us on with their devious schemes, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, from ambition, we have acted with arrogance. Hereafter, let's dampen our self centered pride. When the force of attraction or that of repulsion colors whatever we hear or we say, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have ignored what has caused all our troubles, the mass of delusion that dwells in our heart. Hereafter, let's try to abandon all hindrances, note their arisal, examine them well. When no matter how well meant our actions towards others, they always elicit a hostile response. This is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Till now, we have repaid loving kindness with malice. Hereafter, let's always accept others' favors, both graciously and with most humble respect. In short, then, whenever unfortunate sufferings we haven't desired crash upon us like thunder, this is the same as the smith who had taken his life with a sword he had fashioned himself. Our suffering is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Hereafter, let's always have care and awareness, never to act in non virtuous ways. Let's run it back. In short, then, whenever unfortunate sufferings we haven't desired crash upon us like thunder, this is the same as the smith who had taken his life with a sword he had fashioned himself. Our suffering is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Hereafter, let's always have care and awareness never to act in non virtuous ways. All of the sufferings that we have endured, in the lives we have led in the three lower states, as well as our pains of the present and future, are the same as the case of the forger of arrows who later was killed by an arrow he made. Our suffering is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Hereafter, let's always have care and awareness never to act in non virtuous ways. When the troubles and worries of family life grieve us, this is the same as the case of a child who is cared for with love, later killing his parents. Our suffering is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon us from wrongs we have done. Hereafter, it is fitting in all of our lifetimes for us to live purely as monks or as nuns. As it's true what I have said about self centered interest, I recognize clearly my enemy now. I recognize clearly the bandit who plunders, the liar who lures by pretending he is part of me. Oh, what relief that I have conquered this doubt. And so, Yamantaka, spin round with great power, the wheel of sharp weapons of good actions now. 3 times turn it round, in your wrathful like aspect, your legs apart for the 2 grades of truth, with your eyes blazing open for wisdom and means. Bearing your fangs of the 4 great opponents, devour the foe, our cruel, selfish concern. With your powerful mantra of cherishing others, demolish this enemy lurking within. Frantically running through life's tangled jungle, we are chased by sharp weapons of wrongs we have done. Returning upon us, we are out of control. This sly, deadly villain, the selfishness in us, deceiving ourselves and all others as well. Capture him, fierce Yamantaka. Summon this enemy. Bring him forth now. Batter him, rip out the heart of our grasping for ego, our love for ourselves. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. Hum, show all your powers, O mighty protector. Za, tie up this enemy. Do not let him loose. Pa, set us free by your might, O great Lord over death. Cut, break the knot of self interest that binds us inside. Appear, Yamantaka, O wrathful protector. I have further entreaties to make of you still. This sack of 5 poisons, mistakes, and delusions drag us down into the quicksand of life's daily toil. Cut it off, rip it to shreds. We are drawn to the sufferings of miserable rebirths, yet mindless of pain. We go after its cause. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We have high expectations of speedy attainments, yet do not wish to work at the practice involved. We have many fine projects we plan to accomplish, yet none of them are ever done in the end. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. Our wish to be happy is strong at all times, yet we do not gather merit to yield this result. We have little endurance for the hardship and suffering, yet ruthlessly push for the things we desire. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. With comparative ease, we develop new friendships, yet since we are callous, none of them lasts. We are filled with desire for food and fine clothing, yet failing to earn them, we steal and we scheme. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chances to gain final release. We are experts at flattering others for favors, yet always complaining we are sad and depressed. The money we have gathered we cannot bear to part with. Like misers, we hoard it and we feel we are poor. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We have done very little to benefit someone, yet always remind him how much we have done. Yet we have never accomplished a thing in our lifetime. Yet boasting and bragging, we are filled with conceit. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We have many great masters and teachers to guide us, yet shirking our duty, ignore what they teach. We have many disciples, yet do not ever help them. We cannot be bothered to give them advice. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We promise to do many glorious deeds, yet in practice we give others minimal help. Our spiritual fame has been spread far and wide, yet inwardly all of our thoughts are repulsive, not only to gods but to demons and ghosts. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We have read very little, heard only few teachings, yet talk with authority expertly on voidness. Our knowledge of scriptures is pitifully lacking, yet glibly we make up and say what we like. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We have many attendants and people around us, yet no one obeys us or heeds what we say. We feel we have friends in positions of power, yet should we need help, we are left on our own. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain that final release. We have gained lofty status and ranks of prestige, yet our knowledge is poorer than that of a ghost. We are considered great gurus, yet even the demons do not harbor such hatred or clinging desire, or as closed minded an outlook as we seem to have. Trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. We talk about theories and the most advanced teachings, yet our everyday conduct is worse than a dog's. We are learned, intelligent, versed in great knowledge, yet cast to the wind wisdom's ethical base. Trample him, trample him, dance on the head of this treacherous concept of selfish concern. Tear out the heart of this self centered butcher who slaughters our chance to gain final release. Cut my strength to the illusion. Cut my strength to all attachment that's binding. May I be of use. May I be of benefit. May I be of use. May I be of benefit. May I be of use. Compassionate action has no limit. Like the smoke dancing in the wind. Not caught or bound by anything. Moving free in the stillness of peace. I wish our minds a state of unimpeded. I wish our minds a state of unimpeded. Untie my knots of selfish wants. Untie my knots of hurtful thoughts. May I be abused. May I be of benefit. May I be abused. May I be of benefit. May I be abused. Compassionate action has no limit. Like the smoke dancing in the wind. Not caught or bound by anything. Moving free in the stillness of peace. I wish our minds a state of unimpeded. I wish our minds a state of unimpeded. Like the smoke dancing in the wind. Not caught or bound by anything. Moving free. Yeah, I wish our minds could stay unimpeded. Ease. I wish our minds could stay of unimpeded. Shout out to Travis. Thank you, Travis. So, if we have any questions at this point or sharing experience, the space is open to share or ask a question. It's nice when we practice quite seriously and intensively, because when we do that, we make a lot of merits, meaning that if we're when we practice seriously, when we practice intensively, we make a lot of merits. We endure a lot of pain, or we listen to the Dharma teachings a lot, or we stay together in the meditative environment, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the way of ending suffering, which means that we kind of plant the seeds for fruits of ease, of happiness, of peace, of well being. And these inspirational or devotional Dharma songs actually become, take on another tone of realism. Humble yourself in the wisdom of the elders. We gotta be down low and humble yourself in the sight of your brother. Humble yourself in the sight of your sister. Down low and humble yourself in the knowledge of the children. We gotta know what they know, and we shall lift each other up. Shall lift each other up. Yeah, so this is my meditation practice. I was a Buddhist monk in Thailand and Myanmar for more than 7 years. And my main teacher, Sayadaw Ashino Tamatara, he has a certain practice methodology of doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment limitlessly. So the Monk Life Meditation Institute, the Sangha, the community space here, is an emphasis on doing good deeds together limitlessly or more and more. So right now we're on hour 6 of our community session. And we listen to Dharma talks and have Q&A. We make offerings. We practice seriously. Yeah, I'm quite eclectic in many ways. Someone asked about what I thought about that text. That's a very great and very deep and eclectic and practical text. It's the season now for gifts and giving all of our hearts and dreams can afford. And when I think about the hope that you planted, I wanna give back all I have and then some more. Yeah, I'm human. I can only do so much. All the miracles we make is just one touch. Yeah, so I've done some Tibetan practices. So actually, Tibetan practices are Buddhist practices because they're concerned with the doorways and the pathways of this great release or this final release. But I've done Tonglen, and I've done wrathful deity practices, and it's horrible stuff, and you can become very crazy or very sick or very have a lot of big problems by practicing very seriously and pushing yourself beyond the limits of your virtue. Basically, it's an incredible opportunity to humble ourselves and take refuge in the elders, the Dharma masters, not to just take refuge in our own thoughts, our own ideas, our own beliefs, our own concepts, etc. Okay, really nice question. Welcome, handler. Deep one. Amount of disclosure in your choice is your choice. Okay, so deep one. Amount of disclosure is your choice. But here's my question: do you ever feel a sense that you are, or perhaps need to, resist, keep a door closed, or perhaps run away? And if so, why? Yes, of course, often. And that's a very good sign of serious practice. Um, Different people have different karmic affinities or karmic blockages, right? So when we're working on enlightenment, we're working on karma, or we're working with karma. So we could get this idea, like one idea that someone could get or that I could get is I'm going to lock myself in a box and I'm going to meditate until I'm enlightened. You see what I'm saying? You're going to fight to not stop until you get enlightened. And actually, that has to be informed by wisdom. It has to be concerned with wisdom. So, for example, one of the things that you can leverage to practice spirituality very seriously is to leverage the karma of others. So, you can leverage the collective karma to inspire and kind of twist and go deeply into this bodhisattva practice. But if you, that's not actually the correct way to do it. It's just something that we can leverage, or it's not a very safe way to do it for most people, most circumstances, most environments. I remember the first time I ever got my teeth on the bone of bodhisattva practice, and I was living in Seattle, and I had a great job, great car. I'd already lived at a meditation center for a year previously, and at some point I got this. I tasted blood. I tasted bodhicitta, and I gripped that bone and I followed. So I left my apartment, I left my job, I left my relationship, I left my whole life. And I started to leverage collective karma to create like this emotional resonance of bodhicitta and this want to awaken and just like receive everything and be open to everything. And I practiced like that for a while. And eventually I was barely eating, I couldn't sleep. It was like my energy or my prana was leaving my body. Like I felt like I was literally dying. And I was blessed enough, I had enough good merits enough to go from that to staying at a Buddhist monastery, a Truklam Zen, like a Dzogchen, Vietnamese Dzogchen monastery in Renton, Washington. So I went there and I immediately rested, right? Because I was in this safe, protected spiritual environment. That's something that a lot of people don't know about, the degree of spiritual protection that certain environments and certain conditions can offer. So I went into that, I rested, and I said, wow, what I'm doing seems to be working. I'm juiced to the gills. I feel power. I feel energy. And I had a lot of arrogance coming out of that. So then I said, well, and the monk there, the master there is fantastic. And he said, I'll train you to be a monk. I'll support you. He took me in off the streets in a totally, vulnerable state. He knew kind of what was going on. And I said, well, yeah, but this temple doesn't even have a composting practice. So how am I going to stay at a place like this? And then I went back out into the environment and I spiraled and practiced like that until I was broke in Colorado at my wits end. I had one period of time where I remember I walked into a Starbucks to use the toilet. I was just living out of my car, running out of money in Colorado. And I walked into the toilet and somehow, like unconsciously, because it's like self destructive in a way, I threw my keys into the toilet, my Camry keys, and I flushed it. So now I'm totally alone. I'm not connected with anybody or any community at all. I'm totally alone. I'm totally vulnerable. I might as well be like a meth head or something like that, like a just totally vulnerable. And now I'm locked out of my car out front of this Starbucks. So I call, I had AAA and they came and I had another key. I had an extra key in my car actually at that time. So there's a lot of ways to practice very intensively and very deeply that there are not many good conditions for as a Westerners or with the Western karma. And just in general, modern human karma, the modern human conditions. It's not like we have the Buddhas down the street, camping out with 500 arahats. So for me, I believe that my teacher's methodology, it's very inclusive of Tantra and what do you call it? Mahakala type practice, etc. And to go through that process is precisely what it's going to take to actually get final awakening. But final awakening has this wisdom element of nobody actually being someone who's finally awakened. So that thought in itself is kind of incorrect, basically. But this just happened. I got my, and I don't know actually the details about it because there's not many people to talk with spirituality about, just FYI. There are not many people in the world, accessible people in the world, who have practical, continuous experience over years and years and years, deep knowledge, etc., that are actually accessible to talk about your spiritual experiences with. So I had this time recently in India where once again I got my mouth on the I got my teeth on the bone. I tasted blood and I said, I'm going full throttle. And so I ended up eating discarded food, not drinking water, not sleeping, not being able to sleep, practicing so intensively with my karma that I would wake up in sheer terror, and then removed myself from all of my supporting environments, like removed myself from my teacher, removed myself from my sangha, went to the Mahakumbh festival in India. I was in India at the time and just totally destroyed myself. Totally destroyed my ego. Total experience of wrathful compassion, and it destroyed me. It destroyed me psychologically, and by many metrics, it destroyed a lot of elements of my life that weren't Dhammic. And it took me, I don't know, maybe months to recover from that intensity of that experience, that destabilization of the ego. Sure. Overall, I would say that was a good experience, but it was a good experience because it was a learning experience, not because it was a perfect thing. Because I went through that, I'm more informed by the good aspects of that and the bad aspects of that. So the biggest insight about that, which is one of the hardest things to learn, is that you sit with neutrality, that even the seeking for enlightenment is a big part of the problem. It is actually not going to work. You could go to 1,000 10-day Vipassana retreats and it wouldn't necessarily work because that underlying seeking for enlightenment is there. But if you don't practice that serious seeking for enlightenment, then how are you going to find it? And that's really epitomized in the story of the Buddha. So the Buddha, before he was enlightened, had mastered all 8 dhyanas. This guy was a bliss king. This guy had psychic powers. This guy had access to all states of meditation that he could tune into, tune out of, etc. And he said, you know what? That's actually still not it. And then he sit down and he said, okay, I'm going to sit here or I'll die. And he had some milk tea or milk rice as well that a cowgirl brought along to him, as they say. So it's not really something that we can sit down together and discuss. It doesn't really work like that. Just like you can't sit down and together and discuss a farm and growing fruits and growing mangoes, etc. It doesn't work like that. Someone said, "Will you do another one?" It will hopefully the next time it happens, I'll get success. I learned a lot from this time because I really brought myself to facing death and ran home scared, turned back. All right, Handler says, thank you for answering. Can you touch on the understanding of how reaching total final enlightenment and attempting to maintain the state can be affected by celestial deities in contrast to fascia? Great, good. So the total and final enlightenment is the unconditioned. So there's no effect. There's no cause and effect is unconditionality. Oh, physical. Well, the fascia, the physical, right? The fascia of the body. Celestials and deities also are energetic wavelengths, like the real 5G, the 5G of anger, and like habit energies with anger, or habit energies with greed, or habit energies with delusion that kind of are like psychically communicated diseases. Yeah, when you reach enlightenment, you're not coming back. But you don't reach enlightenment, nobody becomes enlightened, right? So, like, just a fundamental principle of reality in Buddhism is non self. So, who's getting enlightened anyway? But 100%, when you reach enlightenment, you ain't coming back. And so, in traditional Theravada, they say it this way, they say, if you become an Arahat, buddy, shit is gonna get fucking crazy as fuck. Excuse me. It's really not nice to say it that way, but you're done. Like you're done. Like there's no person who's like a social media like content creator or spiritual teacher who actually becomes an arahat and then says, "Okay, I'm going to keep doing my stuff." And sometimes I'm not well read enough or advanced enough to speak fully on this, but sometimes there's the Mahayana and the Theravada have some differing views and like positions or principles and practices as relate to like a Buddha or an Arahat. So some systems of Mahayana would say that a Sotapanna is just a first stage Arahat, right? And then in an ultimate sense, you'd say like a Buddha is just awareness, or everybody is a Buddha. So they say in Theravada, within a week, and the Theravadas are a little bit, it's like even the Buddha didn't live in the city; he chose to live in the forest. So the Theravadas have a certain kind of dispensation or disposition generally in their principles and practices for their own personal enlightenment. But the Theravadas would say if you happen to become an actual Arahat, you would either commit suicide in a week or you would join the Sangha, because there wouldn't be any other really way to live. It wouldn't make sense to live in any other way. So this can be a little bit sectarian, a little bit rigid kind of view.
So how about
So I don't
Sadhguru?
work, but in terms of your question, do I work now? This would be my work. So being a meditation teacher, being a Sangha leader, being a Dharma teacher in my teachers organization.
So how about Sadhguru?
Well, they would say maybe Sadhguru would be classified as like a high level bodhisattva, probably.
So he's not an Arahant?
Well, no, because in the Mahayana disposition of working with all beings, like saving all beings or doing these good works, the Arahat, like a Sotapanna, a stream enterer would be a first stage Arahat, and even a fourth stage Arahat would be underneath a Pratyeka Buddha or a Buddha who doesn't speak or doesn't teach, and even a fourth stage Arahat would be underneath a Bodhisattva who basically has ascended the self notion together with everything and is offering and is able to offer skillfully. But then, like the Buddha is the pure skillfulness or the pure awareness. So Sadhguru would probably be described as a high level bodhisattva, and that would implicitly mean, and you get into really interesting dynamics with this because of the wisdom element. So the self and no self are canceling out each other. So it's like the sword of wisdom cutting through now, rather than people in a scheme of time being at this level or being that level, etc. Even in the factualness of this being solid and real, this is totally impermanent and totally permeable. But a true bodhisattva would be someone who's restricting their own final enlightenment or Buddhahood for the sake of benefiting all beings everywhere, intentionally, according to vows that they've made. Okay, so Ray says, when you're Buddhist, is it self-supported in the organization for room, board, and basic needs? No, it'll be supported for you. So if you want to be a volunteer, or if you want to be a meditator, or if you want to spend time as a monk or a nun, then all that stuff will be supported for you, be kind of organized and managed for you. And there's a good Zen saying to keep aware of, and that's that even a donkey's clock is right twice a week. Even the donkey gets to eat the carrot when he sits down to take a rest. So there's not something special about saying the right thing. Even if it's factually right or scripturally right, it's not necessarily actually penetrative. So someone said recently in my live stream on YouTube, they said Travis, I believe. Travis said, um, where did that go, huh? I gotta find it. Hold on. Anyway, truth is penetrative. Basically, is what he said, that truth is penetrative. It's not about that those words are right, or who said those words, or that the person who's saying those words is right. It's penetrative. Kind of like emotions. Like if you can feel really deep like if someone has really authentic, real emotions, like that's penetrative. You can feel that. You don't have to think about why they have those emotions or what those emotions are. You feel those emotions. So the truth is also like that. Names and Shapes says, do you think saints from different religions and traditions are reaching the same place with enlightenment? Well, you don't need to think about it. That's the joy. You don't have to think about it. And also, I don't know. Well, if you don't have a soul, who can say how it feels to not have a soul? It's the season now. Forgive and give and all of our hearts and dreams can afford. And when I think about the hope that you painted out, I wanna give back all I have and then some more. Yeah, I'm human. I can only do so much. All the miracles we make is just one touch from me, from you, helping someone who can make it on their own. No one wants to be alone at a time like this. Only joy strengthens when the world gets too much. All we need is a touch of love, a touch of love. When hard times appear, when we drown in our tears, there's faith enough to see us through. Whatever rains on us, yeah, we can always trust heaven's hand will guide us through. Yeah, we can all do so much. All the miracles we need is just one touch. Yeah, just one touch from me, from you, helping someone who can't make it on their own. No one wants to be alone at a time like this. Only joy exists when the world gets too much. All we need is a touch of love. A touch of love. All we need is a touch of love. A touch of love. All I need, ever need, is a touch of love. All I need, ever need, is a touch of love. It's all I need, is all I need, is a touch of love. It's all I need. It's all I need. All I need. It's all I need. It's all I need. 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 It's 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 all I need. A touch of love.
Dr. Rob, uh, can you move your hand up and down so that the lag is recorded for the YouTube people? I'm trying to see that they can fix it. Okay.
So Handalore, this is one of the reasons, Handalore, and excuse me for speaking this way. I'm just trying to share my understanding about something that runs parallel to what you're asking about. And so this is what Travis said before. Travis said, "Truth isn't additive; truth is penetrative." So one of the reasons that there aren't a lot of people to talk to about spirituality is because there are not many people that have had much active relationship with self-sacrifice with high gurus, with masters. And so we have this kind of intellectual seeking to understand intellectually what a bodhisattva is, what an asura is, what yama is, what mahayana is, etc. And there's a lot of answers out there. ChatGPT can give you a lot of answers to that. But this is a structure that is based on the conditioned. So going from original truth or original nature or absolute nothingness, you have the unconditioned, which is nibbana, and then you have conditions. So specific of conditions as it relates to working with karma are unfathomable unless you are a Buddha. So I even asked my teacher before many times, is this person enlightened? Is this person a sotapanna, etc. And my teacher says very frankly, only the Buddha knows for sure. Only the Buddha knows for sure. So I'd be happy to sit down with a good donor, a good volunteer, a good friend of mine, and work with ChatGPT, work with Google Gemini, and explore and unpack and investigate, these subtle elements of the conditioned. But that's not the main practice or the main focus of a Dhamma teacher. Certainly not my Dhamma teaching or my practice here. And so what you'll find is that you might have a very highly realized Tibetan guru or Tibetan master. And as much as they would like to help people become enlightened, they're also responsible for hundreds, thousands of monks and nuns, etc. And they're also aware of, a middle-aged woman who's coming part-time to join the retreat, etc., capacities to realize. So they will offer skillful, specific, sharp medicines, conditional teachings to help that person slowly move towards the unconditioned, like the realization of awareness or something. Not in a vague, modern non-duality way or hippy dippy way, but in a very specific, with a lot of efficacy, with a lot of heart, etc. So there's all kinds of different elements that go along with this uh, path of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or enlightenment, teachings to and from and fro enlightenment, and community of enlightenment. And so, one of the big restrictions that modern people have in terms of understanding and connecting with enlightenment is not a lack of willingness or interest to get involved and to have practical experience, but a lack of accessibility for these spaces existing in the West that have that robustness and that depth and that limitlessness. So we say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, you know, let's try and find as many enlightened people as we can and let's spend time together, or people who are interested in being enlightened and spend time together. So that's the merit of the Dhamma, of being concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, practically, sincerely, etc. So karma can only be understood by a Buddha. A Buddha is free from karma. So it's pointing to the unconditioned. And also, you can imagine if you're free from something, you can understand it very clearly. So we cannot understand karma. We can't understand cause and effect in its minuteness. Karma, the way of karma is unfathomable. That's why the fundamental prerequisite for Buddhist practice is faith in karma, not faith in my thoughts about myself and your thoughts about you, etc. One of the confusions that come up in a space like this is not having like a connection point to understand the context of what's going on here. So like a lot of people who are here and may be quite, seriously interested in spirituality and social activity and feel a lot of responsibility in terms of other people in the world, would not necessarily have a prerequisite understanding of valuing merit over money. So if one came here and they did not have an understanding of the possibility, not even speaking of the efficacy of valuing merit over money, it would not be very clear what's going on here. It would be very, very confusing. Does that make sense? Hopefully Yamantaka will come by pretty soon and beat me over my head. But I oftentimes fall into this problem of like trying to manage everything, like manage other people's understandings or manage people's access to what's going on here. And that's why I've gotten so frustrated and have been so crazy in my teachings and in my live streams and stuff, because of that frustration of trying to manage. And it can make me very, aggressive and rough and angry and disturbed and all that stuff. So I'm trying to slowly, be less fixated on trying to manage other people's understandings, and just making this a home for sharing the energy. But for me, if I'm sharing with the group, and whether it's skillful or not for me to say this, I'll say it for the open ears that we have around, right? Merit is way more valuable to me than money. And, even if it was not true, I don't live in such a way to be very skillful at making money. That's not a priority in my life. So it doesn't take that much energy. It doesn't take that much juice to say that merit is more valuable to me than money. Because, of course, what you can experience, bliss is a little bit confusing to me because I don't experience so much bliss, but a sense of equanimity, a sense of peace, a sense of access to freedom, a sense of access to not suffering, a sense of access to simple joys, a sense of access to not being a horrible person, a sense of access to actually being a heart person, a heartfelt person, and to connect with other people through the heart. Wisdom is exactly not confusion. So this is the parallel between generosity and access to wisdom. So you might have someone like Handel Orr, just as an example, right? Who goes to the best Tibetan Buddhist temple, the best Buddhist monastery with the best guru. And who was it? That guru's just hanging out in the meditation hall. And you've been reading books and you've been meditating and you're serious about this and you want to get enlightenment, right? And you go into that hall and you start asking the guru, the real guru, the real meditation master, all these questions. What the guru might do is lift up the Buddha and put the Buddha down, or say, hey, hold out this statue. At the beginning it's easy. After 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, now it's a heavy statue. All you got to do is put it down. So the generosity is, it's like an active willingness. It's like practicing the principle of putting something down that you're holding on to, basically. And doing that concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha has more value because the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is concerned with merit and the ending of suffering and the unconditioned, which applies to everything. Handalore, it's totally possible, but this is kind of the same thing, right? So you're interested in something. You want to be involved with something. You're considering to make use of something more deeply. Show up. Show up. This is 6.5 hours that the Monk Life Meditation Institute has had its doors opened. So show up. You want to come out here to spend time with me in Vietnam? You want to go out to Thailand and visit Ajahn Martin Piadamo's monastery? You want to go to join my teacher in America um, or in Myanmar for the 3-month Vasa retreat coming up later this year? Bing, bang, boom, no problem. But if you can't show up now, if you don't show up to the preceding now moments and the forthcoming now moments, how are you going to show up to something like that? And then there's also this confusion, this idea that maybe that would benefit me in some way. Like how beneficial it would be for my YouTube stream and my life and my ego and my career if people were coming to me and saying, "Hey, can I stay in your place? Can I visit with you?" But actually, this is just about a principle of you making use of what's already here so that you can make further use of it and make a more clear, determination of how you want to make use of this and how seriously you want to consider this. You can go and live in Myanmar for the rest of your life and not pay a single dollar for food and housing and all that stuff. But we as human beings, as modern human beings, we have a lot of wrong ideas, right? All our ideas aren't right. So we have a lot of wrong ideas. So maybe we come across Buddhism. Maybe we even go to a Buddhist temple. I saw some people, they actually went to a place where these two monks were teaching, and they're like sitting there meditating, listening to Dharma talks, like early Buddhist teachings. And then they raise their hand and say, "But wait a minute, what if everybody becomes a monk?" So, what if everybody becomes a plumber? So, this theoretical dominion, this theoretical position of like these absolutes, I've figured out the way that it is actually kind of not very useful, not very realistic. Dear Travis, I did go for a motorbike ride for doing some things and riding in that way as well. But I'm going to go for that motorbike ride in the nearby future. We're some gears we're interlocking, and we're gonna see. There's some things I'm trying to take care of in the next couple weeks, hopefully, that will open up that door a little bit more. But that ride is coming. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the Dhamma is almost like creating less clogged shitters of ourself and our mind, like our ways of living, our ways of being. Because how often do you like have a strong idea about something or have a strong idea about someone, and then that idea turns out to be totally wrong? Raise your hand if you've ever experienced that. Anybody here ever experienced that? You had a really strong idea and you were angry or you were happy or you were in love or you were in rage, right? This idea about someone did something, is this kind of person, etc. And then out of the blue, mysteriously, something, you get more information, you find out, wait a minute, that idea was totally false. So actually, there's a lot of ideas that we have inside of ourselves, like the operating principles of our mind, that are actually very false. And then when we practice the meditation, we basically root out all these underlying ideas that aren't actually true, that cause us to suffer so much, that cause us to be so greedy, that cause us to be so delusional, that cause us to be so frustrated and angry and make more and more mistakes. And that is what the Dhamma is about. And then meditation, or being in awareness, just sitting is sitting naturally and just being, not thinking so much about anything. That is this place and time where you don't have to make any mistakes. The refill of our energy that we get from meditation, or like spending a little bit of time in silence and not thinking, is actually this refill of not continuously making mistakes, of seeking and avoiding and chasing after things, etc. So we may think that like this kind of live stream, or like spirituality and like enlightenment and stuff like that, we might think that that's about us having a conversation about our beliefs and what we think about things and the sentences that we come up with. But rather, it's actually a practice, an internal practice of stilling the mind, of centering awareness, of bringing suffering to an end. It's not about everybody being equal to each other. So like if this guy's talking, then I guess it's my time to talk too. Oh, what if you went to a Buddhist temple and there's a monk sitting in front of the Buddha teaching? And we might have this idea that like that monk is sitting in front of the Buddha teaching and like getting off on it, like his ego's getting off, like look how many people are listening to him and bowing to him, etc. That might be true, but it also might not be true. That monk or that teacher may be practicing this as a way of generosity, as a way of giving, as a way of sharing, as a way of helping others, because that monk or that teacher has seen for themselves how much that has helped them. So, just as much as we can be selfish, greedy billionaires, we can also be kind and compassionate and generous human beings. Make sense? Humble yourself in the wisdom of the elders. We gotta bend down low and humble yourself in the sight of your brother. Asking what he knows and humble yourself in the sight of your sister. Bend down low and humble yourself in the knowledge of the children. We gotta know what they know, and we shall teach each other. Humble yourself in the wisdom of the elders. We gotta bend down low and humble yourself in the sight of your brother. Asking what he knows and humble yourself in the sight of your sister. Bend down low and humble yourself in the knowledge of the children. We gotta know what they know, and we shall teach other. Humble yourself in the wisdom of the elders. We gotta bend down low and humble yourself in the sight of your brother. Asking what he knows and humble yourself in the sight of your sister. Bend down low and humble yourself in the knowledge of the children. We gotta know what they know, and we shall teach other. Xin chào.
Yeah, hello, em delivery em biết rồi.
Okay, I come.
106.
Ah, tis the season now for gifts and giving all of our hearts and dreams can afford. And when I think about the hope that you ended, I wanna give back all I have. There's some more. Yeah, I can only do so much. All the miracles we need is just one touch from me, from you. Helping someone make it on their own. No one wants to be alone at a time. I just only joy should exist when the world gets too much. All we need is a touch of love, a touch of love. When hard times are uphill, we drown in our tears, faith enough to see us through. Whatever rains on us, we can always trust. Heaven's hand will guide us through. Yeah, we can always